All right, we're back looking at our combinator. And I'm going to make this a little more playable. What I noticed during the break here is that the pitch bend is not consistent. Listen to me bend pitch here. Now there may be situations where you want that, but I don't know if you can hear what's going on. When I bend the pitch up and down, it's bending farther on some synthesizers than others. So let's go through and just check all 4 synthesizers' pitch bend range. I'm going to set it, this one's set to an octave, and that one's set to a perfect fifth, 7 semitones. And the next one is 7 semitones and 7 semitones again. Let's make them all consistent. Let's make them all bend up and down the interval of a fifth. So that's 7 semitones. All right, more consistent, great. And then we could set the mod wheel if we like, so that it sends the same amount to the same modulation destination, but I kind of like the way it's working out now. You see, I'm moving one mod wheel on my MIDI keyboard controller, and it's controlling all of the mod wheels on each of the connected subtractors in this combinator. If I go up here to the main window of the combinator, you can see that the mod wheel there moves with my MIDI controller, as does the pitch bender. All right, what we're going to do now is we're going to program these rotary knobs. And what we'll do by doing that, what we'll accomplish is that we can route these knobs to one or more devices or knobs or sliders on either one synth or 2 synths or all of the synths that are in the combinator. I'll show you how it works. First thing we're going to do is route, what I want to accomplish here is I want to route rotary knob 1 to the portamento amount on all of the synthesizers. So here's what I'll do. I'll go first over here. Again, if you're not seeing this programmer, you can make it appear by clicking that Show Programmer button. And I want to select the first synth, which is this one called All Square. And in the Rotary 1 field, I'm going to look for that controller. Let's see, what is it I'm looking for again? I've already forgotten. I'm looking for the glide or portamento amount. I should have looked for it first so I could tell you, save you some time. That's okay. We'll just look. Pitch bend range. That's interesting. Here we go. Portamento. Okay. So I'm going to select that. Again, this is the first synth, the one called All Square. I've routed Rotary 1 to portamento, and it plugged in some default numbers for me here, 0 to 127. So what I'm going to do, here is the portamento knob, and I'm going to move Rotary 1 and see, yep, sure enough, as I move Rotary 1 up here, do you notice that this portamento knob is moving as well? Amazing. What I want to do is I want to route the portamento control of all of the synthesizers to that same rotary knob. So here's how I'll do it. I'll click on the name of the second synth, and again in Rotary 1, I'll select the portamento amount. Where did I find that? Now I can't find it again. In keyboard portamento. And I'll do that for the third synth, Rotary 1, portamento, and finally for the last of the 4 subtractors, Rotary 1, portamento. So that gives me direct control over the portamento time of all 4 of the synthesizers inside this rack. Okay, let's take rotary, let's name it. Why not? I double-clicked on the name Rotary 1, and I'm going to type in a new name, Portamento. Or for you Moogophiles, you might call it Glide, because that's what they call it on Moog synthesizers. Instead of Portamento, they use Glide. All right, Rotary 2. We're going to route to the cutoff frequency of filter 1. So let's go back up to this first synth. Again, these other 2 devices, if you're not sure, if you're having trouble seeing them, the first device is the line mixer, and next is the reverb unit. So we could, if we like, maybe we'll do that with button knob number 4, or maybe with one of these buttons we can automate the bypass or something like that, or the dry wet mix on the reverb, something like that. We'll see. All right, so I'm going to do filter cutoff frequency. So on all square, I'll go to Rotary 2, and I'll route that to filter frequency. And I'll do the same thing for the next synth, Rotary 2, filter frequency. And the third synth, which is Funk Lead, Rotary 2, to filter frequency. And finally, the last one, Punchy Pulse with Modulation Lead, Rotary 2, to filter frequency. And you probably, let's name it. Rotary 2 is now, I'm going to abbreviate it the way they abbreviate it on the subtractor. Just, well, no, I won't. I changed my mind. I'm going to write it all out. Filter freak, I'll abbreviate that. And let's now do the resonance on Rotary 3. So here's my first synth, Rotary 3, filter resonance. Same thing with the next synth, Rotary 3, filter resonance. Again, Rotary 3 for the next synth, filter resonance. And finally, the last of these 4 synthesizers, filter resonance. Okay, so now I could do filter sweeps with these knobs. I'm getting funky with filter resonance and cutoff frequency. Okay, so you get the idea. And I should name this one, shouldn't I? Filter, let's just name it resonance. All right, and I won't take the time to do Rotary 4, but the process would be the same. Let's have button number 1. I'm not sure if I can do this, but I'm going to try. I'm going to highlight the plate reverb, which is this reverb unit, and see if I can go to button number 1, and I'm not sure I can do it. I'm going to experiment here. I want to see if I can route button number 1 to bypass that reverb. Maybe I want to set it up so that I can bypass it, turn it on or off. Oh, enabled. I bet that's it. Let's see. So I first highlighted the reverb here. I went to button number 1, and I clicked in that field. I went to master and enabled. Let's see if that turns this bypass, or it probably turn it from on to off. Let's see. Oh, bypass, good. Reverb off. Reverb. Aha, do you see what it's doing? It's changing from off to bypass. So the effect is kind of lame. We got to fix that. Okay, look at the amounts here. Okay, and again, let me show you that again. As this button number 1 is highlighted, my reverb is switched to bypass. When I unhighlight it, instead of going to on, or vice versa, it goes to off. That's because of the settings of these numbers here. You see that 0 is the minimum value and 2 is the max value. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that minimum value and I'm going to change it to 1. And now let's try that button again. And now, sure enough, when it's on, the reverb is bypassed. When it's off, the reverb's active. So I'll name it reverb or verb off. Maybe verb bypass. So that's how you can change and program these devices. The cool thing is you can actually program even more than what you see here. The default is for these 4 rotary knobs to each show up for each device, and these 4 buttons to show up for each device. But you can, and they're all labeled here, but you can even add more stuff. You can add an additional rotary. You can add a mod wheel and tell it what you want the mod wheel to control. Let's try an example of that. Mod wheel for this first synth. And then what can we route that to? We can route it to all sorts of cool stuff. So it's really pretty fantastic what you can do. If you don't like your modulation routings, you can fix them here. You can label the buttons so that they're meaningful. And then again, if you save that patch again, it'll save all of those settings. So each time you load that, it'll save that. The combinator will come into the rack now with all of that stuff mapped out, and even the names. Let's see if I can get that to happen. And now I'll load that patch, assuming I can find it. It's on my desktop in this folder. Why, I don't know, but there it is. Mike's Big League Combi. And sure enough, there it is, loaded again with all of my programmer settings, just as the doctor ordered. All right, that's it for this tutorial.